Good morning, lovelies. Today's video will be talking about illusions. So, the definition of illusions, the explanation, and some examples. An illusion is a reference within a work to something famous outside of itself, such as a well known person, a place, an event, story, or work of art, or literature, music, or pop culture. The purpose of illusions is to let the reader or the viewer understand new information, characters, plot, setting, etc., by making a connection from the reference to something you already know. Allusion is not to be confused with illusion. An illusion is something that is or is likely to be misunderstood by the senses. So it's like a false idea. In order to understand allusions, one must have a good grasp on well known works of literature, art, music, pop culture, etc., whatever. So if you are not well read, then it'll be difficult for you to fully understand why an author or a writer or a director uses an allusion. And it sometimes makes it difficult for high school students to grasp as well as middle school students. Allusions are not references to someone or something only a small group of people know. So you wouldn't say Sally's smile looked like my mom's smile because not everyone knows your mom. While this is a method of comparison, it is not a reference to something well known outside of your community. So again, nobody knows your mom but you. So that wouldn't be an illusion. The purpose of illusions, whenever you come across an illusion, stop and ask yourself, what does the writer want me to understand about this character, setting, plot by connecting it to something with which I am already familiar? Also ask yourself, what is the author's purpose in using this specific illusion? Is it to create the same feeling or mood as the original work? Is it for comedic effect? Is it to show characters' motives or traits? So the reasons behind a character's actions or their traits. An illusion example: Sally had a smile rivaled only by that of the Mona Lisa. Since everyone is familiar with the painting, they can imagine Sally's smile as almost expressionless, like the Mona Lisa. What does this show about Sally? So the fact that she has a smile like the Mona Lisa may be that she's a nonchalant person, perhaps, because as you can see, Mona Lisa is not really smiling like a cheesy smile. It's a mild smile. An illusion example from art to film. Art to film, we should all be familiar with this face, but the makers of the Scream movie alluded to Edvard Munch's work of art, The Scream of Nature, in order to instill fear into movie viewers. So this face inspired this face. Okay? So The Scream inspired the movie The Scream. TV to film. So in the Family Guy, Stewie has blocks stacked on each other that read red rum. Well, in the movie The Shining, Danny writes red rum on the door at first. And then they show a scene with the mirror reflection that shows that red rum is murder backwards. So the makers of Family Guy make Stewie's block say red rum as an allusion to The Shining, the movie. They use this illusion because they know their audience will likely be familiar with The Shining. So they will understand the message that Stewie is obsessed with murder. So red rum equals murder spelled backwards, as reflected in the mirror in The Shining. This illusion helps the viewer gain a deeper understanding of Stewie's character, a matricidal maniac. So Stewie's a bit crazy. Allusion example film to film. So we have The Karate Kid with Daniel LaRusso, and we have Disney's Hercules. And they're both standing in a crane pose. Hercules alludes to the Karate Kid's crane pose when Hercules is training. Disney's Hercules uses this illusion so that the viewer thinks of the Karate Kid, or Daniel LaRusso, and how after training in the sunlight, Daniel wins the big match during a karate tournament. The illusion is used to foreshadow that Hercules will also be successful in his big fight. So foreshadowing is almost predicting the outcome of an event. Film to book. So Peter Pan, or Robin Williams, says, "What is this? Some sort of Lord of the Flies preschool?" in the movie Hook. So what he was implying to was the book called Lord of the Flies, where the land, or the island, is run by kids, nothing but kids. Kids are savages with no adult influence, and they've been abandoned without adult supervision. So again, it's like an island run by kids, almost like the maze one, the first maze, kind of, sort of. Most popular allusions. 3 of the most popularly alluded works come from the Bible, Shakespeare, Greek and Roman mythology. So Poseidon is the god of the sea. So what does that tell you? That you're expected to be a well read in order to understand a lot of allusions. So again, you have to be well read. You have to have some information about literature and art and music and pop culture in order to understand allusions. So looking at Shakespearean allusion, movie to play. So as we can see, this is a scene from Aladdin where the genie is trying to make Aladdin a prince, and he opens his recipe book. After the crab bites him, a robed hand comes out of the book, to which Genie says, "Et tu, Brute," indicating that the recipe book has betrayed him, also along with the crab. The purpose in this case, of course, is for comedic effect. Okay, so "Et tu, Brute" is Latin for "and you, Brutus." And this was said by Julius Caesar in Shakespeare's play when he's about to die and realizes Brutus has betrayed him. It's used when people want to get the message across that someone has betrayed them. Another common betrayal allusion is to Judas Iscariot, the biblical figure who betrayed Jesus with the kiss of death, which is another elusive phrase, kiss of death. Another Shakespeare allusion comes from Romeo and Juliet. Many people, or many works, allude to Romeo and Juliet when there's a story of lovers who are not supposed to be together because of others' objections to their love. So for whatever reason, 2 people aren't supposed to be together, like in Romeo and Juliet. Some Romeo and Juliet song allusions. Let's look at number 3, Dire Straits' 1980 popular song Romeo and Juliet, in which the singer looks back on a failed relationship. Or where the Blue Oyster Cult song Don't Fear the Reaper mentions Romeo and Juliet as being together in eternity, because in Romeo and Juliet, they were supposed to be together in eternity. They were supposed to die together, but it didn't happen that way. Or the band Genesis uses the names Romeo and Juliet for characters in the song The Cinema Show. More continued. The My Chemical Romance song Our Lady of Sorrows contains the line, "And die like star-crossed lovers when we fight." And then the Reflections reached number 1 on the top charts in the summer of 1964 with the song Just Like Romeo and Juliet. So all of these songs allude to the literature by Shakespeare of Romeo and Juliet. Another Shakespearean allusion, Hamlet, to be or not to be. Hamlet says this after he's discovered that his uncle has killed his father and married his mother. He doesn't know whether or not he wants to live. So to be, in other words, means should I live on or love on, or not to be means should I commit suicide? So to be or not to be, should I live on or should I commit suicide? Often alluded to when people are contemplating suicide in literature, art, movies, etc. So some Shakespearean elusive phrases are bottom of my heart. Like, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. That comes from Shakespeare. Or that's a piece of cake. Or we've been friends, we've been through this, we've been through thick and thin. Or there's no rhyme or reason as to why someone did something. All of these are phrases that come from Shakespeare. We have mythological allusions. So, Achilles' heel. The original tale with Achilles is when Achilles was a baby, it was foretold that he would die from an arrow. Naturally, his mother Thetis did not want her son to die, so she took Achilles to a magical river, the river Styx, which was supposed to offer powers of invincibility and immortality, and dipped his body into the water. But as Thetis had held Achilles by the heel, his heel was not washed over by the water of the magical river. So Achilles grew up to be a man of war who survived many great battles, but one day a poisoned arrow shot at him was lodged in his heel, killing him instantly. Yet Achilles is remembered as one of the greatest fighters who ever lived. So when someone wants to discuss their weak point, he or she will refer to it as his or her Achilles heel, meaning that they are strong in all areas except for that one tiny spot, like in Achilles' heel. So an Achilles heel alludes to a weak spot. Other mythological allusions are like this Venus razor. Advertisements use allusions as well. So Venus razors allude to the mythological Roman goddess who is principally associated with love, beauty, and fertility. And then more mythological allusions, just a few. So Amazon, which we are very familiar with, Apollo, Hermes, Hercules, Hades, Medusa, Phoenix, like in X-Men, Titans, Spartan. So all of these are mythological allusions. So again, an allusion is a reference to a well-known familiar work of literature, art, pop culture, music, just a reference to something that everyone knows. All right, my lovelies, lesson on allusions.